I just want everyone to know that in this video, I'm going to be completely unbiased towards Conor McGregor. He really just is another fighter. Hello everyone and welcome back. Today I will be talking about Conor McGregor and his return to the UFC next weekend against Donald Cerrone. McGregor, as we all probably know, is the UFC's most recognizable fighter. This popularity is for a mix of reasons, which I'll go ahead and break down for you. The first reason Conor McGregor is so well known is for his time inside the octagon. He debuted in the UFC in 2013 and pretty quickly rose to the top of the 145-pound featherweight division, beating almost all of his opponents with first or second round TKOs. In December 2015, Conor fought Jose Aldo, or is it Jose?
Jose Aldo. Comments made towards Jose Aldo.
Okay, cool. Everyone's saying Jose. They fought for the featherweight belt in 2015. Conor knocked Aldo out in 13 seconds, making it the fastest title victory in UFC history. He then lost to Nate Diaz 2 weight classes above his usual at welterweight. Nate and Conor rematched, with Conor winning by majority decision. McGregor then fought Eddie Alvarez for the 155-pound lightweight belt, becoming the first UFC fighter to hold championship belts for different weight classes simultaneously. McGregor is also the first Irish-born UFC champion, had the most consecutive Performance of the Night awards, and post-fight bonuses in UFC history. On top of this, and as I've discussed before on this channel, McGregor brings in the most pay-per-view buys out of any fighter in the history of the UFC, when they were still releasing that information. Since partnering with ESPN and ESPN Plus, we are no longer privy to that information as consumers and fans. So any future fighters and their growth will not be available to us, and their pay-per-view draw, including this coming fight with McGregor. We will not be able to see if he is still relevant, which I find infuriating, but I digress. 5 out of the top 6 highest selling pay-per-views include Conor McGregor, and all brought in over 1 million buys, with number 1 being his last fight in October of 2018 against Khabib. McGregor has no doubt had a very successful career inside the octagon, but part of his notoriety is due to what he does outside the octagon. Trash talk got him very far in his rise in the UFC. He never hesitated to start something with somebody at any pre- or post-fight conference or interview.
If you wouldn't mind counting to 10.
Nate can only count to 5.
Conor McGregor is going to blank Khabib when you guys meet each other.
Stomp on his head as he's unconscious.
There it is.
If this was a different time, I would invade his favela on horseback and kill anyone that was not fit to walk. But we are in a new time, so I'll whoop his ass in July.
I'm preparing for a tall, lanky, ugly Mexican southpaw.
Was there anything at all surprising about it to you?
Not one bit. I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, I'd like to take this chance to apologize to absolutely nobody. The double champ does what the he wants.
You got a lot of champions, a lot of grizzled vets. Who do you think would give you the hardest fight out of anybody on stage?
Right here. Right here, the hardest hitting 145-pound, the real hardest hitting 145er, right here. This guy TKOs people. When I knock people out, they don't fucking move. They're not. Who the fuck is that guy? Who the fuck is that?
Sorry I'm late, I just don't give a. On the count of 3, I want everyone in this arena to scream at the top of your lungs, fuck the Mayweathers. 1, 2, 3. Carrying a school bag on stage. What are you doing with a school bag on stage? You can't even read.
After becoming the champ, Conor McGregor left UFC and MMA to try his hand at boxing against Floyd Mayweather. Their fight sold 4.3 million pay-per-view buys, the number 2 most purchased pay-per-view event in history. I guess, boxing event. But they beat out the UFC's numbers too. So it is incredibly obvious that Conor draws in a lot of eyes. McGregor also started a couple of businesses. August McGregor, which is a luxury menswear line, and Proper 12 Irish whiskey.
Trust me, it is the tastiest Irish whiskey there is on the planet. I fucking love it, and I don't give a bollocks what anyone says.
Which launched in September 2018 and had $1 billion in revenue in the US alone in 2018. For example, I tried to find a bottle of Proper 12 for UFC 229, and they literally ran out everywhere from Reading down to San Jose. Every liquor store and Bevmo either asked, "What's Proper 12?" or they said, "We're out, sorry." It was very sad. A very sad day for me. Now, all of this may sound well and good. McGregor is a wonderful fighter. He's a great businessman. He knows how to promote fights. He brings in eyeballs. What more could we want from our unproblematic king, Conor McGregor, and his whiskey business and everything else? He's perfect. What did you think I was going to talk about for the rest of the video? I'm going to end it here. McGregor has been involved in a number of controversies over the years, which every McGregor fan has had the displeasure of trying to explain to friends and family and other MMA fans why they like this guy. Everyone wants to talk about, dollies and old men, and it's just like, but just for you, I'll give you a quick rundown on everything that's happened. The first one you don't hear about as much. It's not as popular as some of the other McGregor antics. This happened in November of 2017 at Bellator 187, where one of Conor's teammates had knocked out the opponent, but the fight was not officially declared over. McGregor jumped into the cage anyway, and this is where the mess started. All in all, McGregor ended up hitting Mark Goddard, a well-renowned MMA referee, as well as slapping a commissioner in the face. In April of 2018, Khabib and one of McGregor's friends, Artem Lobov, had a small altercation, which was really nothing compared to McGregor's reaction to it all. McGregor and his team tried to confront Khabib as he left a promotional appearance for UFC 223. Khabib was already on a bus leaving, along with a group of other fighters. McGregor couldn't just let him leave, tweet at him something mean. No. So he grabbed a big metal dolly meant for moving equipment, picked it up, and threw it into the bus window, shattering the glass and injuring two fighters that were on the bus. McGregor had to turn himself in the following day, and he was charged with 3 counts of assault, 1 count of criminal mischief, as well as menacing and reckless endangerment. He pleaded no contest to a count of disorderly conduct and had to perform 5 days of community service and attend anger management classes. Tensions between Conor and Khabib were high, especially leading up to their fight in October of 2018 at UFC 229. This was Conor's first UFC return after a 1 year and 11-month break, and the build-up was not as lighthearted as some of the other build-ups to these fights have been. It wasn't like, haha, I'm gonna beat you. It was arguably too far.
So I did a pretty bad job of explaining this, and this topic alone could be its own whole video, but for the sake of time, Conor specifically attacked Khabib's family, specifically his dad and his wife. He attacked his connections, including the Chechnyan dictator and the man who funds all of Khabib's camps, who was arrested by Putin only like a couple of weeks before. Oh, and his manager. I have a good clip to put in here, so I'll put that in.
His manager is a fucking snitch terrorist rat, and that's it. I could go into heavy detail, and I will go into heavy detail. He was pulled off of a flight going from Cairo, Egypt to New York City on September 11, 2001. He was caught with 5 passports in his possession. He turned informant and turned on the people that he was working with. He is I don't even know how that man is in this fucking country.
All in all, McGregor went for the throat. It makes a lot of sense why what ended up happening happened.
After submitting Conor in the 4th round, Khabib, instead of celebrating, jumped out of the cage and into the crowd, where he went to attack one of Conor's training partners. Some of Khabib's team jumped into the cage, where Conor exchanged punches with Khabib's cousin. Meanwhile, I'm standing at a bar watching my first ever UFC fight go going, does this happen after every fight? What's happening right now? McGregor was fined $50,000 and was suspended by the Nevada State Athletic Commission for 6 months. Now, if you thought that fighter-on-fighter violence was bad, it gets worse. In March 2019, McGregor allegedly grabbed a man's phone and threw it on the ground in Miami Beach, Florida. He was arrested for strong-armed robbery and criminal mischief. The fan also filed a civil lawsuit against Conor, which was dismissed. And by May, all of the criminal charges were dropped as well, due to the fan's story changing so many times. In August of 2019, very cleverly timed 2 days before Nate Diaz's return to the UFC since his last fight with Conor McGregor, TMZ released a video of Conor McGregor seemingly punching a man in a pub in Dublin. Now, this video was from April of 2019 and was released by TMZ for no apparent reason. McGregor went to court over it, was charged with assault, and was fined €1,000. Now that you know the history of McGregor, all of the things that have made him so well known, so despised, so adored, let's talk about his return to the UFC this coming weekend. First of all, in September of 2019, McGregor had an interview with Ariel Helwani where he apologized for the pub punching incident and had an air of an adult who maybe didn't want to just make people angry. The whole feel from the interview was a much more serious, maybe actually went to anger management class Conor. He seemed very well put together, he seemed very thoughtful and not too angry in his responses, even when Ariel Helwani kept asking about the same incident when Conor was obviously trying to get him to move on to another subject. And I don't know if it's just me noticing it, but I feel like his attitude in interviews has been different ever since then. I don't know if this is because he turned 30 or if this is because he's had 2 kids now. Maybe his life is slowing down a bit. He's seeing that life isn't all Gucci minks. There's actually important stuff like not going to prison again, being able to travel internationally without having to spend like 4 hours at customs because they're like, oh wait, you've committed how many crimes? Sorry, you can't come to our country. But even in these interviews leading up to this next fight, he's like, I'm treating the UFC like this is a season, and he wants to be healthy for all of these fights, and he has a plan, and he seems like well put together. He says he doesn't want to get involved in the politics, and he just seems like a different person who maybe, I don't know, grew up a little bit over those couple of years off where he got to do whatever he wanted and did whatever he wanted. Obviously, I mean, he smashed a person's phone and punched a guy in the face in the span of a month. He keeps talking about redemption, and this would be a pretty big redemption arc if he wins this welterweight fight and then drops down to the 155 to rematch Khabib. I think we'd all be really interested in seeing that fight, especially if maybe he could not call Khabib's wife a towel. I don't know. I'm interested in what's gonna happen. Surely this could all be all talk, just like every other thing that he's ever done, but it feels like he might be a changed person. And I'm very interested in being able to support a fighter where every single time I'm like, oh yeah, Conor McGregor is one of my favorite fighters. I don't have to go, well yeah, I know that he like punched a guy, but like whatever. I'm obviously kind of a newbie to the UFC. I am no genius as far as looking at a fight and going, I know who's gonna win this. So I'm not claiming that to be my lane, but I'm totally interested in how Conor fights at 170 if he's slowed down a little bit. I did take one exercise physiology class and I know a little bit about exercise metabolism, and I find it very interesting that he's really bulked up when I feel like, shouldn't he be trying to work on his cardio? But he could be, and we just don't know it. And last but not least, I think that Conor can probably turn this around for the better if he tried to, and decided that's what he wants to do. We'll see what happens. I'm really excited that Conor's back in the UFC. I saw him in that one fight and I haven't seen him for a year and 5 months or whatever it'll be. A lot can change about a person in a year and 5 months, especially as far as body composition and muscle type. And that's something that I will probably learn more about as I watch more UFC. That's the end of my video. If you love Conor McGregor, comment down below, tell me about it. If you hate McGregor, cyberbully me in the comments down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. That's it. Thanks for watching. I will see you next month with another UFC video, or next week where I have a little Chico State video for you. Please subscribe. Bye guys!